Capricorn. There's a silence you've been carrying for years. Not the kind that comes from peace, but the kind that grows when the truth has been buried too long. You know exactly what I'm talking about. That knot in your throat when someone asks, "Are you okay?" And you smile. Because if you told them the truth, they wouldn't know what to do with it. You've built a life, a reputation, a name. People admire your strength, your resilience, your independence. They look at you and think, nothing can break that one. But they don't know that something already did. A long time ago. Quietly. Permanently. They didn't hear what you never said. They didn't see what you buried beneath success and structure. They never noticed the way you flinched, not outwardly, but deep in your spirit, when someone got too close to the truth. And now something strange is happening. That truth, the one you swore you'd never look at again. It's rising. It's pushing through the cracks in your carefully constructed armor. It's whispering in your sleep. It's haunting your moments of stillness. And you can't outrun it this time. Not because you're weaker, but because you're finally ready. Because something in you knows. You can't build your future on a truth you're still afraid of. Capricorn, this is not just another emotional phase. This is the beginning of something sacred. A reckoning. A liberation. A return to your original self, before the pain taught you to hide. You didn't come here by accident. You found this message because the universe is finally opening the door. And on the other side is the freedom your soul has been begging for. But to get there, you'll have to do what you've avoided your whole life. Face the truth that broke you, and let it set you free. If you're ready to go all the way in, to see what's behind that silence, don't skip this video, because what you hear next will change everything. Part 1. The childhood contract when you learned silence was safer than truth. Capricorn, let's go back. Not to your job, not to your adult responsibilities, but far, far back. To a moment that shaped everything. You see, the truth you're hiding didn't begin last week. It didn't begin with a breakup, or a betrayal, or a failure. It began when you were still learning how to walk through the world. And someone made you believe that feelings were dangerous. Maybe they didn't say it outright. Maybe no one ever told you, don't cry. But they showed you. By looking away. By growing uncomfortable. By praising you only when you were strong. You were the mature one, even as a child. The one who understood things adults shouldn't have said out loud. You learned that being dependable made people love you. You learned that being emotional made people withdraw. And so, you made a silent contract. A contract with yourself. I will carry it all. I won't show weakness. I won't be a burden. And Capricorn, you kept that promise. You carried the grief when your family fractured. You stayed composed while your siblings cried. You held your dreams in silence because no one ever asked what you wanted. You got good at pretending. So good, in fact, that even now, you don't realize when you're doing it. You can talk about goals for hours, but shut down the moment someone asks about your heart. You can give advice like a sage, but can't remember the last time you asked for help without guilt. Capricorn, do you see it now? This strength they admire in you. It was born in a place where you didn't feel safe to be real. And the truth is, that version of you, the hyper-independent, emotionally locked down version, was never meant to last forever. It was a survival self, built out of necessity, crafted in silence, designed to protect. But here's what no one told you. Survival skills become prisons if you don't outgrow them. And you've outgrown them, Capricorn. That's why everything feels so tight lately. Why success tastes hollow. Why your relationships feel disconnected. You're still operating from the childhood contract. But you're no longer that child. You no longer need to earn love through endurance. You no longer have to trade your emotions for approval. You don't need to apologize for your softness. In fact, your softness is the doorway to your freedom. Because what you were forced to suppress back then is what's trying to rise in you now. The tears, the truth, the need to be seen without performing. Capricorn, your soul is done pretending. And the truth you've hidden all these years. It's not here to shame you. It's here to return you to who you were before the world asked you to shrink. Life Lesson, Part 1. Sometimes, the traits we're praised for are the same traits that keep us imprisoned. Being strong is not bad. But being only strong is unsustainable. Capricorn, this is your moment to revisit that childhood contract. And tear it up. Write a new agreement. I am safe to feel. I am allowed to be seen. I am worthy even when I am not perfect. Part 2. The mask of control and the fear of losing it all. Capricorn, you're not obsessed with control because you're selfish. You're obsessed with control because, at some point in your life, you had none. Somewhere in your past, maybe childhood, maybe your first heartbreak, maybe a betrayal no one else noticed. Something fell apart. Suddenly, brutally, quietly, and no one came to explain it. No one came to fix it. No one came to hold you. So your soul made a decision. If no one will protect me, I'll protect myself. Always. You became the planner. The door. The one who stays 3 steps ahead, not because you want power, but because you fear what happens when you're caught off guard. You call it being prepared. Others call it being organized. But the truth is, it's survival. A trauma response in disguise. And here's the most painful part, Capricorn. The more control you seek, the more exhausted you become. Because life, real life, is uncontrollable. You can manage schedules, but not emotions. You can build systems, but not people. You can predict outcomes, but not hearts. And when life inevitably refuses to bend to your plans, you blame yourself. You tell yourself you failed. You weren't disciplined enough. You weren't aware enough. You weren't good enough. But what if the truth is simpler, softer, and more liberating than that? What if you were never supposed to control it all? What if your need for control is not proof of your power, but proof of a wound that still thinks chaos equals danger? Capricorn, I know this is hard to hear, because your identity has been built around competence. People look to you because you seem unshakable. You like being the person who has the answers, the solutions, the plans. But behind that mask, behind all that composure, is a very real, very human fear. If I don't hold it together, everything will fall apart. Including me. Let me ask you something. Have you ever let anyone see you not holding it together? Have you ever risked letting go of the plan, of the image, of the weight? Have you ever allowed someone to help you before you burned out? Or have you convinced yourself that surrender is failure? That vulnerability is weakness? That asking for help is for people who don't have it figured out? Capricorn, here's the deeper truth. Letting go isn't the end of your power. It's the beginning of your freedom. Because true power isn't about controlling outcomes. It's about trusting yourself no matter what happens. You don't need to be the perfect fixer anymore. You don't need to preempt every storm. You don't need to grip the wheel so tightly that you forget to breathe. The universe is not asking you to control it all. It's asking you to come home to yourself. Even in the chaos. Especially in the chaos. And the moment you let go of control, the moment you say, I don't have to carry all of this alone, you'll feel something you haven't felt in years. Relief. The kind that softens your jaw, unclenches your fists, opens your heart. And in that openness, Capricorn, you will finally hear the truth. You are still safe even when life is uncertain. You are still whole even when you're not in control. Life Lesson, Part 2. Control is not the same as safety. Perfection is not the same as peace. Capricorn, when you let go of the need to control everything, you make space for life to surprise you in the most beautiful ways. You've protected yourself long enough. Now let life hold you. Part 3. When you give everything but still feel invisible. Capricorn, you've always been the one who gives. You give your time, your energy, your wisdom. You show up when others don't. You hold the weight no one else can carry. You offer solutions while quietly drowning in your own storms. And yet, in the quiet moments, when the world goes still, you feel it. The loneliness. The hollowness. The ache of being needed, but never truly seen. People lean on you, but rarely ask, "How are you doing?" They praise your strength, but overlook your softness. They respect your boundaries, but don't notice your exhaustion. They admire your leadership, but miss the silent cries behind your composure. And you tell yourself, "It's fine. I don't need anything in return. I'm not doing it for recognition." But let's be honest now, just for this moment, just with yourself. Haven't you secretly wondered, why does no one show up for me the way I show up for them? That question haunts you. Not because you're needy, you're not. Not because you expect applause, you don't. But because you give with such purity, and yet, you often feel like a ghost in your own relationships. You make sure others feel safe, loved, supported. But when you feel weak, you isolate. You overwork. You numb yourself with tasks and goals, hoping the ache will go away. Capricorn, you deserve to be nurtured, not just needed. You deserve to be held, not just leaned on. You deserve to be seen for more than your usefulness. But here's the painful truth. Some of the invisibility you feel, you've also helped create. You've hidden your needs. You've disguised your pain. You've made it easy for people to assume you're fine. You didn't do it maliciously. You did it to survive. Because vulnerability once meant danger. Because letting someone in once ended in betrayal. Because silence felt safer than disappointment. But Capricorn, silence doesn't protect your heart. It buries it. And when your heart is buried, even the ones who love you can't find it. You've become so good at anticipating others' needs. You've forgotten how to ask for what you need. So here's the invitation. Start asking. Start revealing. Start receiving. Yes, some people may disappoint you. Some may not know how to hold your truth. But others will rise to meet you. If you let them see you. And most importantly, you will start seeing yourself. Because Capricorn, your soul is not here to be a machine. Your heart is not a to-do list. Your worth is not measured by your productivity. You are not just a giver. You are a being who deserves to receive. And the painful truth is, you've spent so long trying to earn love. You forgot you were worthy of it all along. Life Lesson, Part 3. When you hide your needs, you teach the world that you don't have any. When you silence your pain, you invite people to overlook it. When you give without receiving, you create imbalance not just in your relationships, but in your soul. Capricorn, it's time to rewrite the story. I give because I love and I receive because I'm worthy. Part 4. The ghost of betrayals you never spoke about. Capricorn, there's a memory you don't talk about. Maybe not even with yourself. It doesn't scream. It doesn't demand attention. It just lingers like a shadow that never quite leaves the room. You keep yourself busy. You work. You plan. You build. But when the noise quiets down, when the world goes still and your breath slows, it returns, not as a flashback, but as a feeling. A tightness in your chest, a heaviness in your bones, a sudden coldness in your heart. It's the betrayal you never unpacked. The wound you bandaged with silence. The person or people who hurt you and walked away as if you didn't bleed. You didn't scream. You didn't beg. You didn't chase. Because you're Capricorn and Capricorn endures. You convinced yourself it didn't matter. You told yourself you were better off. You used logic to build walls around your feelings. Because facing the truth meant admitting this. Someone you trusted broke something sacred in you. And the worst part, you blamed yourself for trusting them. You told yourself, I should have known better. I should have seen it coming. I was stupid to let them in. So instead of grieving what they did, you punished yourself for allowing it. Capricorn, that's the real betrayal. Not what they did, but what you did to yourself after they left. You turned your pain inward. You silenced your voice. You became even more guarded, even more selective, even more self-reliant. But here's the thing about buried betrayal. It doesn't die. It just waits. It waits for someone new to get close. It waits to be reactivated. It waits in the shadows. Until you're finally strong enough to face it. And you are now. Not because it doesn't hurt anymore, but because you've outgrown the version of yourself that hides from hurt. It's time to acknowledge what happened, to name it, to feel it, to release it. Not for them, not to forgive prematurely, but for you, for the part of you still waiting to be seen, to be held, to be validated. You were betrayed, Capricorn. You were abandoned. You were blamed for things that weren't your fault, and you didn't deserve any of it. Say it. Let yourself believe it. Because when you speak the truth of what happened, you take back your power. You stop carrying shame that was never yours. You stop wearing guilt like a second skin. You stop defining your future by someone else's betrayal. You begin again. Life Lesson, Part 4. Silence protects the betrayer. Truth frees the betrayed. Capricorn, you don't need to keep pretending it didn't hurt. You don't need to minimize it to keep the peace. You are allowed to say, "What they did changed me, but it no longer defines me." That is how the healing begins. And once it starts, it cannot be stopped. Part 5. You keep repeating the past until you finally feel it. Capricorn, have you ever wondered why the same themes keep showing up in your life? Different people, different places, different moments, but the same emotional pattern again and again. You fall into friendships where you give too much. You build relationships where you're the caretaker. You choose careers that demand everything but offer little back. You keep choosing people who can't fully choose you. You keep saying yes when your soul screams no. You keep holding it together even when you're quietly falling apart. Why? Because Capricorn, you don't repeat what's healed. You repeat what's unprocessed. There's a part of you still stuck in the moment you were taught to survive. Still proving, still pleasing, still performing. Not because you're weak, but because your nervous system only knows one language. Keep going. Don't stop. Don't feel. But here's the truth your soul is trying to whisper through the pain. Until you fully feel what once broke you, you will keep recreating situations that try to force you to. That breakup you never grieved. It shows up again as emotional detachment. That parent who never saw you. You chase after partners who mirror the same absence. That betrayal you buried. It repeats itself as paranoia, hyper-independence, or distrust. Not because you're cursed, but because you're still carrying the weight. Capricorn, you've mastered endurance. But what you need now is emotional honesty. What if the lesson is not to get stronger? What if the lesson is to stop running? To sit with the discomfort? To let it ache? To let it break something open in you? So the light can finally get in. Because here's the liberating truth. Pain doesn't destroy you. Repression does. And every time you deny yourself the right to feel, you add another brick to the wall that keeps love out. Not just from others, but from yourself. Capricorn, you've suffered enough. You've lived in your head long enough. You've rehearsed the logic. You've told yourself the story in third person for years. Now it's time to tell the truth in first person. Yes, it hurt. Yes, I deserved better. Yes, I'm still healing. Because once you feel it fully, not just understand it, you stop bleeding on the people trying to love you. You stop punishing yourself for wounds that weren't your fault. You stop reliving pain disguised as loyalty. And most of all, you give yourself permission to create a life that doesn't feel like punishment. Life Lesson, Part 5. Capricorn, the past doesn't repeat because you're broken. It repeats because something in you still wants to be witnessed. Not judged, not fixed. Just fully felt. Only when it's felt can it finally be released. And from that release, freedom. Real, embodied, irreversible freedom. Part 6. When the strongest part of you begins to break, and that's a good thing. Capricorn, something inside you is starting to crack. But this time, it's not a breakdown. It's a breakthrough. And you know what I mean. You've felt it in the moments when your voice trembles unexpectedly. In the silence you've been craving more than success. In the sudden tears you can't explain. The strong part of you, the one who kept it all together for so long, is getting tired. Not just physically, but soul-deep tired. Tired of carrying what others won't. Tired of pretending. Tired of surviving. And that fatigue, it's sacred. It's not a flaw in your character. It's not a sign that you're failing. It's a message. Your old self is dissolving because your true self is ready to emerge. Capricorn, strength has always been your shield. But it's also been your cage. Because when you're always the strong one, you never get to be the one who's held. You don't get the softness, the grace, the tenderness. You become a fortress admired from the outside, but lonely within. But now, something deeper is calling. It doesn't want the version of you that performs strength. It wants the one that embodies truth. It wants the you who isn't afraid to fall apart. Because you finally believe that someone, even if it's just yourself, will catch you. This moment in your life is sacred not because it's easy, but because it's honest. You don't need to keep pretending you're unbreakable. Because real power isn't in never breaking. It's in letting yourself be broken and still choosing to rise. And Capricorn, here's the truth you might have never heard. Sometimes, your highest self will break the strong part of you on purpose. So the true part of you can finally breathe. That strength served you. It got you through fire. It helped you build, protect, survive. But now, it's keeping you from joy, from intimacy, from rest, from life. It's okay to let it go. You're not giving up your power. You're giving up your armor. And underneath that armor is the version of you that's been waiting to be free. The one that can laugh without looking over their shoulder, cry without apology, love without conditions, and rest, truly rest, without guilt. Life Lesson, Part 6. Strength is not about holding everything in. It's about knowing when to let go. Capricorn, if your old self is breaking, don't glue it back together. Let it fall. Let it shatter. Because beneath it is the version of you who was never meant to hide behind the pain. Not just stronger, but softer, more real, more alive. Part 7. When you finally say, this isn't mine to carry anymore. Capricorn, you've carried so much that never belonged to you. Other people's guilt, other people's silence, other people's expectations, and sometimes, even their shame. You took it on not because you were weak, but because you thought it was the only way to keep things from falling apart. You became the emotional anchor in storms that weren't yours. You held space for people who never held space for you. You carried the weight so others wouldn't have to feel their own consequences. And after a while, you forgot where they ended and you began. But now, something inside you is rising. It's quiet, but firm. It's ancient, but new. A voice that says, I can't carry this anymore. And the truth is, I never had to. Capricorn, this is not about blame. It's about boundaries. It's about seeing with new eyes what you've been calling responsibility, when in truth, it was emotional inheritance. Some of the pain you carry, it's generational. Some of the roles you've played, they were assigned, not chosen. You became the strong one, the reliable one, the overachiever. Not just because that's who you are, but because no one else stepped in. And you thought, if I don't do it, no one will. But here's the revelation. You are not here to carry what was never yours. You are not here to fix everyone. You are not here to hold together broken systems. You are not here to keep proving your worth through sacrifice. That's the lie they fed you. That love must be earned. That rest must be justified. That healing must wait until everyone else is okay first. But Capricorn, you were born to lead by light, not by weight. And this is the moment you put it down. Whatever it is. The guilt. The resentment. The grief that isn't even yours. You don't need to explain it to anyone. You don't need their permission. You only need to say this. This was never mine. And I release it now. With love. With truth. With finality. And when you do, you'll feel it in your body first. A breath that goes deeper. A shoulder that softens. A stillness you haven't known in years. Because when you put down what isn't yours, you finally have room for what is. Joy. Desire. Peace. You. Life Lesson, Part 7. Capricorn, carrying too much doesn't make you noble. It makes you invisible even to yourself. Let this be the moment you reclaim your space. Not as a savior, not as a fixer, but as someone who is worthy, simply because they exist. Part 8. The rebirth of your true self, beyond the mask, the role, the pain. Capricorn. Take a deep breath. Something sacred is happening. You might not see it on the surface, but internally, your soul is rearranging itself. There's a quiet crumbling taking place. Not of your life, but of the false identities you had to wear just to survive it. The achiever, the provider, the protector, the one who always has it together. Those roles served you once, but now, they feel heavy, empty, detached. Why? Because they were never the full picture of who you truly are. They were masks. Beautifully crafted, respected, even celebrated, but still, masks. And now, they're falling. Not out of weakness, but because you're strong enough to live without them. Capricorn, your true self has been waiting, patiently, beneath all the performance. It's the version of you that doesn't have to prove anything, that isn't afraid of softness, that doesn't calculate every move for survival. It's the version of you that lives in truth, unpolished, unedited, unapologetic. This is not about becoming someone new. It's about returning to who you were before the world told you who to be, before the betrayal, before the silence, before the pressure to be more, do more, earn more, before the armor. You see, rebirth isn't about striving, it's about remembering. Remembering that your soul isn't defined by your job title. Your worth isn't tied to your accomplishments. Your identity isn't measured by how much pain you can carry without breaking. Capricorn, do you feel that? That lightness in your chest when you imagine letting all of that go? That's your true self calling you back home. And once you answer that call, everything begins to shift. You start attracting different people. People who see you, not the role you play. People who don't need your perfection, but value your presence. You start dreaming differently. Not dreams built from fear of lack, but dreams rooted in joy, peace, and creative freedom. You start choosing differently, not from guilt or obligation, but from alignment with your deepest truth. This is your rebirth, Capricorn. Not in public, not on a stage, but in the quiet sanctuary of your own spirit. And from here, you begin again. Not as a persona, but as a person. Life Lesson, Part 8. You don't have to become someone else to be loved. You only have to remove what's not truly you. Capricorn, your truth is enough. Your heart is enough. Your presence is enough. You were never broken. You were buried. And now, you rise. Part 9. The energy of receiving and learning that you are worthy of it. Capricorn, you've spent a lifetime mastering the art of giving, of showing up, of pouring from a cup that was often nearly empty. You give advice, you give time, you give effort, loyalty, forgiveness even when it's not deserved. You've built relationships, careers, entire lives, around the idea that your value comes from what you provide. But now the universe is asking something different, something foreign, something uncomfortable. It's asking you to receive love not because you earned it, but because it's your birthright, to receive kindness without suspicion, to receive support without guilt, to receive softness without bracing for pain. Capricorn, I know this isn't easy. Receiving feels vulnerable, exposed, risky. You're so used to being the one who holds everyone else, that the idea of being held feels almost dangerous. You've told yourself, I don't want to be a burden. I'll figure it out on my own. I don't need anyone. But those words, they didn't come from truth. They came from pain, from the version of you that learned long ago. If I need too much, they'll leave. So you minimized your needs. You shrank your desires. You told yourself, I'm fine, even when your soul was starving for connection. But Capricorn, what if receiving isn't weakness? What if it's the next level of your power? Because here's the secret. You cannot fully rise if you won't allow yourself to be filled. You've been surviving on output. But rebirth requires intake of love, rest, nourishment, joy. And receiving doesn't make you selfish. It makes you whole. It completes the cycle. When you breathe out, you must also breathe in. When you give, you must also allow others to give to you. It's balance. It's nature. It's truth. Capricorn, start small. Let someone help you even when you feel awkward. Accept a compliment without deflecting. Rest without earning it first. Ask for what you want even if your voice shakes. Because every time you receive with an open heart, you rewrite the story that said, "I must do everything to be loved." And instead, you begin to live a new truth. I am loved just by being. Life Lesson, Part 9. Capricorn, giving is noble, but receiving is sacred. It teaches your nervous system safety. It heals the part of you that was told to stay quiet and strong. It reminds you that you are not alone and never were. So open your hands. Soften your armor. Let it in. Because what's coming next? You won't have to chase it. It will come to you, and this time, you'll finally let it stay. Part 10. The final goodbye, releasing the past to become fully free. Capricorn, you've done the hardest part. You faced the silence. You let the pain speak. You told the truth, not just to the world, but to yourself. And now, there's only one thing left to do. Let go. Not with rage. Not with bitterness. Not with the coldness of "I don't care anymore," but with the sacred reverence of someone who knows. This chapter has served its purpose. It made you. It protected you. It taught you what love is not. It showed you what you can survive. But you are not here to live in survival anymore. You are here to thrive, to live fully, freely, deeply. And that means saying goodbye. Goodbye to the version of you who carried too much. Goodbye to the one who never felt safe enough to rest. Goodbye to the masks, the roles, the armor. Not because you hate that version, but because you honor them. You say, "Thank you for getting me here, but I no longer need you to keep me safe. I am safe now. I am ready now. I am free now." Capricorn, endings are not punishments. They are portals. And this goodbye, it's not a loss. It's a liberation. Because on the other side of this release is a life where you no longer feel guilty for choosing peace. You no longer confuse struggle with worth. You no longer shrink to fit into stories you've outgrown. This is your closure. Not for a relationship. Not for a job. But for an identity you wore for far too long. You are no longer the one who has to do it all. You are no longer the one who stays silent. You are no longer the one who proves. You are the one who chooses, who receives, who rests, who becomes. And when the memories return, because they will, don't resist them. Just smile and say, "That was me, but it's not me anymore." Life Lesson, Part 10. Freedom doesn't come when everything is fixed. It comes when you release what no longer needs to be carried. Capricorn, this is your final goodbye. Not to your past, but to the idea that your past owns you. It doesn't. You do. You own your story now. You own your healing. You own your voice. You own your future. Let it begin. Final conclusion, the Capricorn revelation and a life that's finally yours. Capricorn, if you've stayed with this message until now, it's not just because you were curious. It's because a deeper part of you, the one that has waited patiently for years, knew that this was the moment. The moment you stopped hiding. The moment you stopped apologizing. The moment you finally said, "This is me and that's enough." You've spent so long building for others, protecting others, saving others. But now the work becomes sacred. You build for you. Not out of guilt. Not to prove. But because your soul is worthy of ease, peace, and truth. And this isn't just about healing. It's about becoming. Becoming someone who no longer bends to survive. Who no longer shrinks to be accepted. who no longer sacrifices peace to earn false love. You've shed the lies. You've surrendered the weight. You've stared into the dark and found your own light waiting. Capricorn, that light was always yours. You don't need to chase what's meant for you. You only need to align with it. Because what's ahead isn't built on struggle. It's built on truth. And now, you are the truth. Call to action. If this message reached something deep inside you, drop this in the comments. I, Capricorn, no longer carry what isn't mine. I am free. I am real. I am finally home. Let your declaration be heard. Not just by the algorithm, but by the universe itself. And if you haven't yet, subscribe to Zodiac Secrets Revealed. Because this space was created for you. For the part of you no one else saw. For the wisdom you were born to remember. For the transformation you were destined to lead. Closing life lesson, the Capricorn path. Capricorn, your zodiac was never about coldness or control. It was always about inner elevation. About turning pain into purpose. Boundaries into freedom. Discipline into mastery. Silence into spiritual power. You are not just here to build empires. You're here to build a soul. So grounded, so true, so whole, that nothing outside of you can shake it. And now, you're finally becoming that soul. Asterisk asterisk, are you ready to live without the chains? Because this time, you don't just survive, Capricorn. You rise.